This beautiful race circuit is Kyalami, just north of Johannesburg in South Africa. Formula 1 has actually raced at Kyalami before in the 80s and 90s, with the last race being in 1993. It was won by none other than Alain Prost in the Williams. Now though, there is talk and rumblings of Formula 1 returning to Kyalami, but it's all a little bit confusing. Before we get into the details though, I thought it'd be interesting to see what a modern Formula 1 car would look like around Kyalami. So I hopped onto Assetto Corsa and I did a few laps. Check out this uninterrupted lap. Kyalami was in line to join the Formula 1 calendar in 2023, but for one reason or another it fell through. Jody Scheckter claims it was due to greed. He said, Formula 1 came over to sign. He had a government backing, some of the wealthiest people in South Africa behind it. Everything was in place, and the guy from Kyalami got greedy. Now, Jody Scheckter himself wasn't involved in the deal, but apparently his nephew worked on the deal for many years. So take that with a pinch of salt. It's a little bit like, I know this guy who knows this guy who said this. The owner of the Kyalami circuit is someone called Toby Venter, and despite the fact that the Kyalami circuit and Formula 1 weren't able to come to an agreement last year, Toby still feels there is a chance of the circuit joining the calendar in 2024, following what he describes as successful negotiations with key stakeholders. It's not quite as simple as that though. For Kyalami to join, another circuit surely has to leave. Stefano Domenicali seems to think the more races the better, but Formula 1 is already stretched pretty thin with this year's calendar of 23 races, and it was due to be 24 before China had to withdraw. Sadly, there's been talk for many years now of Spa being replaced, which to me is absurd. It's one of the most historic Formula 1 circuits that not only has that history, but it happens to be one of the best circuits in the world for racing as well. So the idea of that track losing its position on the calendar would be devastating to me, but this is all about money, and it's always about money. There also seems to be some competition in South Africa. South African entrepreneur Bobby Hartsleaf, who was responsible for Formula 1 racing in South Africa in the early 1980s, has confirmed he's putting together a proposal for a South African Grand Prix, which would be constructed at the Nasrec Showgrounds just south of Johannesburg. And yes, it would be another street circuit. More often than not, money speaks when it comes to Formula 1, and the circuit and the racing is often an afterthought. I actually really like the Kyalami circuit, which is odd because it kind of reminds me of Zandvoort, and I don't really like Zandvoort, but it's quite tight in places, but it's really tricky. I've only raced on it before virtually in a Assetto Corsa Competizione, so it was interesting to take something out with a little bit more speed, but it's a really challenging circuit. There is a lot of undulation, a few blind corners, lots of trail braking while turning. It also happens to be 5,000 feet above sea level, so it would be another high altitude race. Not quite as high as Mexico though. There's so much talk now of circuits wanting to join the Formula 1 calendar. We hear about 2 circuits wanting to join the calendar in South Africa, London, we're getting Vegas. There is so much talk of circuits joining, but where do they fit in the calendar? And what circuits do we have to get rid of? I just feel like the more we carry on, we're going to end up in a situation where the Formula 1 circuit is more street circuits than it is real circuits. And that would be a real disappointment. I'm going to let some B-roll of Kyalami play out now in the background, and maybe, just maybe, we may see it on the calendar next year. But at what cost? I hope you liked this video. If you did, leave a like, and I'll see you next time.